take long.
I haven't even pulled up the chat yet. And welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast. PrideofDetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. Oh my God, Jeremy, it keeps getting longer and longer every time I do this. I say that every week, which it's been about the same for about 6 months, so I'm not even sure why I keep kvetching about it, but I'm going to kvetch about it. That's going to be.
That intro was almost as long as a Green Bay Packers offensive drive.
Ooh. Yep. Well, Lions blow this one, 31-24. We are going to talk about it here on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. We also have some news and information about you for the Lions general manager search coming up later in the show. And obviously, me and Jeremy are going to talk about the health of Matthew Stafford. You watch this game, suddenly the warning lights are out once again for the Lions quarterback's health, because of course it is. But we're going to start on the game. But first, I am Chris Perfett, your adequate host at Chris Perfett, Perfett. And joining me, as always, the fearless leader at Detroit on Lion, Jeremy Reisman. Jeremy, how's it going?
Not too bad, you know. It was a Lions-Packers game that wasn't too painful. Probably it was a little bit more competitive than I was expecting, but probably the end result that most of us were expecting. And of course, it wouldn't be a Lions-Packers game without some referee controversies that
everyone kvetching about.
We'll touch on at least a little bit here, but
do we really need to?
We have to. It's Lions-Packers. Let's just talk about it.
I hate it. By the way, my condolences to anyone who took the over at 55.5 in this game, which is what I saw the total was about. And yeah, that's very interesting where that line falls. Very interesting. But this game kind of had it all, Jeremy. We had blown up plays. We had pain, panic, a Chase Daniel rushing touchdown that was wiped out because of a holding penalty, which honestly felt like that's the mundane world screwing with you there. We could have had something very magical with that.
Sure.
We could have something very magical with the onside kick. That got blown up too. So I think that's kind of where you're officiating. Although I think that was a good call as far as I was concerned. I saw the ball hit the out of bounds marker. But yeah, as you say, the game was competitive, back and forth for both Green Bay and Detroit to start the half. And ultimately what the difference was a touchdown by Green Bay in the third quarter. The Lions didn't have, but the Lions kept pace with the Packers almost all throughout the entire day.
Yeah, and you saw some more aggressiveness from the Lions offense. They kind of let Stafford sling it. I mean, they barely ran the ball at all in this game, only threw it 15 times. They knew from the get-go the shootout was on, and that much was clear really from the first possessions of the game. The Lions go out, immediately score a touchdown. The Packers come back with that big Devontae Adams play. They score a touchdown, and you're just like, all right, we're in for it. And the Lions did their part in keeping it close, and in the first half they got a couple consecutive defensive stops and even had that 35-second drive at the end of the half to potentially take the lead, and that would have potentially changed things. And that's where controversy number one pops up its head. Lions throw a Hail Mary, and I can't remember the player who it was, got mugged pretty bad, got boxed out from a Packers butt, essentially. Listen, I'm on record many times saying I hate 40, 50-yard penalties. I hate pass interference being a spot foul, so I can't be a hypocrite here and saying they should have thrown that. The line should have had a free play at the 1-yard line with 0 seconds on the clock. They shouldn't have. I mean, if the Lions are relying on that kind of play to beat the Packers, then they're not good enough to beat the Packers. And, Yeah, by the book, it was pass interference. I don't want that being called in today's NFL. I just don't. I don't want Hail Marys to. I mean, Hail Marys are supposed to be scrums. Everyone's supposed to be fighting for the ball, and it's not going to be super clean. If he's literally being torn down, then sure, call it. But I don't want a 50-yard penalty on a boxing out. And I know some Lions fans probably don't agree with me with that.
Yeah, we're talking about the Hail Mary near the end of the first half, by the way, in case you're like scrolling back through League Pass and trying to figure out where Jeremy is on this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but I mean that's fine. Hail Marys are wild cards anyway. It's always a matter of how flags even get thrown in the first place. I'm not going to get mad about that. I found again some of the calls, especially some of the stuff that got wiped out, was pretty brutal, but I really didn't find the officiating in this game as anything hyper egregious. Now, some of the fans I was hanging out with was acting like the Lions were just getting robbed left and right, but I think that's just what it is every time the Lions play the Packers. Lions fans are going to be more hypersensitive about any penalty thrown on the field. They're keeping tally at home, and they're keeping score on penalties that they're not usually doing on other games. All right. I'm sorry. Cui bono. I don't know who benefits from the Packers, the refs helping out the Packers or whatever. Like, I get it. But I'm also like, I'm trying to be realistic here about this. This is just, I hate that. I hate this narrative, Jeremy. I hate that every time we have a Packers game like this, where the Lions lose close after a while, it's always about officiating this, officiating that. They didn't get that. They didn't get that. They love Aaron Rodgers. They want to suck off Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, their god. They would, when Stafford got it, they'd throw a flag on Aaron Rodgers for that.
No one here believes in any sort of. I mean, in the chat, yes. Here, I'm talking you and me. Get the controversy crap out of here. I will say that missed call on Marvin Jones where he toe tapped and was out on the 1 yard line. I snapped a pretty darn convincing screenshot, and there's no Marvin Jones bobble. You can see both of his feet toe tapping on the ground out at the 1 yard line. The Lions do eventually score a touchdown on that drive, if I'm not mistaken. They do. But two things happened after that was called incomplete. One is they ran an additional 2 minutes off the clock. The second was Matthew Stafford got injured. And so it's an unfortunate chain event. And yes, maybe Matthew Stafford does not get injured if that they call that a catch. Yes, maybe the Lions have 2 minutes extra on the clock and are able to pull off a miraculous comeback. But in general, no one can watch this game and be like, Lions deserve to win that game. The Lions were the better team. Like, they weren't. They deserved to lose.
No,
they didn't catch any breaks, and they lost to a team that was clearly better than them. And so I'm not going to waste too much time talking about all this. It's just, it sucks that the Lions are where they are, but this is the team that we all knew that they were. And the season's over.
The Packers were the better team, not by much in this game, but they had the better chances and they had the better shot and they had the better quarterback at the end of the day. They had everything they needed. And for the Lions, really what really hurt them in this game is just watching some breakdowns on their defense. I think Amani Oruwariye was kind of, I don't know if we're going to be doing Penthouse Doghouse. Oruwariye did not have a good game. He got beat really bad a few times in the game, which, I mean, that's going to happen. I thought the Lions actually did a pretty decent job keeping Aaron Jones under control.
Sure.
He still had about 70 yards rushing, but
that.
He did not. What?
You'll take that.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a win against a guy like Aaron Jones, who's clearly becoming one of the best running backs in the league right now. One of the top tier echelon ones, I would say. Devontae Adams, you can only do so much to contain that. But the secondary, we've known the secondary is bad. They got beat. And just it was frustrating a little bit. And I think the big story for me for the Lions is that as much as I think we've seen the defense improve with Darrell Bevell at the helm, it's clear that the defense is what we thought it was at the end of the day. And it's like some of these things are going to be hard to extract here. And guys are still going to play 10 yards off the man when it's like 3rd and 2, and all you need to do is stop them from getting a first down, but you're more concerned about giving up a big play at the end, and they're just going to nickel and dime you to death. And that's what happened to the Lions on some of these drives. The Lions had played more aggressively on defense. They played closer to the line of scrimmage. They played closer to their man. I think we might have had a different outcome in this game. But I guess if you're the Lions fan at home, I guess I would ask you, is that what you want right now? Because yes, there is the outside chance that we talked about this last week, right? Like, I'd rather see the Lions win a game, me personally. But if you're at home, I would ask you, like, with the outside chance of a playoff berth, which I don't think is going to happen for the Lions.
It's over now.
Or I mean, I was saying going into this game.
Yeah.
But, or, taking down your divisional rival, or if you're one of the tank guys, like, maybe you're happy that the Lions didn't win. I don't know.
But let me go back to your other point about the defense, because, like, you're right. Like, the Lions were definitely playing a lot of deep coverage, a lot of, like, let's just not get beat on big plays. And to that point, it succeeded, right? They only gave up the one big play to Davante Adams.
I was gonna, but Orwari gave up like two big plays,
maybe two. But in general, the Lions kept mostly everything in front of them, and what that afforded them was a lot of opportunities to get off the field. The Packers faced 11 third downs in this game, but they converted 8. They converted 8 of 11,
that's what Aaron Rodgers
and that's your ball game. That's your ball game, because on third down, this team had no one, absolutely no one, to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And if they they get tight coverage, if they bring everyone to the line, that's not going to work either, because their corners are getting burned, because they suffered yet another injury in the secondary with Darryl Roberts going down, which meant we saw a lot of Mike Ford towards the end of this game. He had one really, really good pass breakup on Davante Adams on the very last play where the Lions absolutely needed to stop. Mike Ford just took the play action and ate it up for dinner and left a wide open receiver, and the Packers clinched the game. So I think the Lions defense worked by design in terms of what they were trying to do. Again, limit their yardage on first and second down, get into those third opportunities, and then just hold on for dear life on third down and hope something good happens. And unfortunately, nothing good happened. The Lions really missed Everson Griffin in this game. They really missed Trey Flowers in this game. And, I mean, you just saw what happened. The Packers took every single yard they could get, and it was enough.
Yeah, but I think the Lions defense doing third down and distance and mid-distance that's the same playbook as what they did against the Bears. The difference is under center for the Bears is Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah. Under center for the Packers is Aaron bleeping Rodgers.
Yeah.
No need to throw the refs in there to explain what happened there. It's just that's the much better quarterback at the end of the day, with the much better weapons in Aaron Jones and Davante Adams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They just have a good roster. They've got good weapons. And unless you are willing to attack the nerve center of that weapon, Aaron Rodgers, and get into the backfield and make a mess of Aaron Rodgers, guess what? Davante Adams, MVS, they're going to do damage to you. There's no way you can kind of contain that damage, even if your secondary was much better. Like, they're going to burn you.
I wouldn't even call their secondary that good. I thought Orwari had an awful game. Duron Harmon.
I'm saying if the Lions were better, but the secondary was bad here. Orwari, as you were saying, terrible game for him.
Yeah, and it's a tough matchup for a second-year guy, a fifth-round. We need to keep reminding ourselves that Amani Orwari is a fifth-round pick. I think a lot of people really hyped him up early in the season, and now we're seeing him kind of go up against the number ones, go up against some good number twos as well.
Well, because of injuries,
it's just too much for him.
Yeah, because of injuries and how this roster's fallen apart, he has been forced to become your number one corner.
And
it is a trial by fire.
Yeah. I see some people in the chat talking about Jelani Tavai, and I think we have to talk about Jelani Tavai in this game because
I want to go really before we get into Tavai. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, again, I don't know what the Lions are going to where they're going to draft in the first round. I am once again going to bang the table for the 5th year now, every year since I've joined Pride of Detroit, for some pass rushing. 0 sacks.
Yep.
0 bleeping sacks against Aaron Rodgers. And that's what I'm saying. You're not attacking that nervous system. So I can't help you. But yeah, let's talk about Tavai. What did you see out of Tavai in this game?
One quarterback hit as well. So that's clearly not enough.
Only one. Yeah.
By comparison, the Packers had 6 quarterback hits and 4 sacks. So that's what a normal stat line should look like. Lions, obviously, like I said, missing Everson Griffin and Trey Flowers a lot in this game.
Lions fans they've completely forgotten what an actual pass rush looks like.
Yeah.
It's been over 6 years now since we've had a defense that could actually put pressure on a quarterback.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to beat up on the guy too much. It's just Jelani Tavai can't be in coverage. He can't be out there for a coverage play. And how many linebackers are we going to give that tag to? Jared Davis can't be out there for coverage. Tavai can't be out there for coverage. Christian Jones can't be out there for coverage. Okay, well, someone has to be out there. And we're losing guys to the secondary, and so it's just the Lions are running out of options, the defense, and we're running out of new things to say about the defense because it is what it is. I thought John Pennicini had an okay game, had a nice tackle for loss. Austin Bryant had a nice tackle for loss. But those guys aren't your every down guys, and unfortunately they have to be right now because Austin Bryant isn't bringing any pressure. Romeo Okwara was very, very quiet in this game. John Pennicini is only a run stuffer, so you don't want him in there for passing downs. And Deshaun Hand he returned in this game finally from injury and went missing as he pretty much has all season. So talent's just not there defensively, and the Packers, again, they didn't have a ton of explosive plays, and I think that's how the Lions limited them to only 31 points. But with an offense that just hits some dry spells here and there, that's not good enough. And Matthew Stafford didn't play a perfect game, and Chase Daniels isn't Matthew Stafford. So you're left with a 31-24 game that wasn't all that surprising. It was a lot of things we've seen out of both teams all year, and now you're left with a Lions season that's essentially over, right? I mean, the best they can be is 8-8. We have the Cardinals currently in the last playoff spot at, I want to say.
Well, real quick before we get onto that, I don't want to let the offense off the hook for this game either because no one really stepped up to become the real weapon on this. Like Stafford, after a 400-yard game, I wasn't expecting him to put up 400 yards against the Packers, but you look at some of the other teams who've been playing the Packers. Even when the Packers win, other teams have been putting up quite a bit of yardage on Green Bay, and there was no. I look more to the receiving core right now, Jeremy. There was no one here who had a big step-up day. Danny Amendola was your receiving yard leader on the day with 66 yards. But Marvin Jones made some impressive catches. I know he had a few wiped out by penalties, but not what was needed there. TJ Hawkinson still has the fallen down problem. It's something I've noticed now, and I'm sorry, I can't let it go.
Dropped a pass or two, too.
Yeah, I feel a little bad for Quintez Cephas. I got a text from one of my Philadelphia sports talk guys who asked me straight up. He actually starts this text with, brother, do the Lions even like Cephas? Is he going to see more snaps at wide receiver? And I told him that Cephas was young and he was a deep threat, and I thought he would, his usage would improve with Hall and Galladay out. And unfortunately, only 2 targets on this day. And I think he had one ball wiped out by a penalty again.
A drop
wiped out. So actually technically improved in the box score.
Yeah,
by that penalty.
You're right. And one thing that's confused me in consecutive weeks now is they go to Mohamed Sanu early in the game, picks up a big gain right off the bat on a 3rd and 9 to keep that first drive alive. And then nothing the rest of the way. He disappears the rest of the time. And I feel like you're right. Like there is some sort of flux happening right now with this wide receiver group where it's just like Stafford doesn't have a favorite target right now. He doesn't have a guy he gets in rhythm with in this game outside of TJ Hawkinson, outside of maybe Danny Amendola. But those are more like check down options or
they're check down options. We've talked a lot about the Lions. The Lions like to spread the ball around.
Yeah.
And sometimes that just doesn't work out to your favor. Sometimes you do need a guy
like Kenny Galladay,
who is like Kenny Galladay, or even if Marvin Jones was having the hot hand against Green Bay, that would have been fine too, but you need one guy to be going off.
This was always going to be a tough matchup too, because Jair Alexander, the starting cornerback for the Packers, is one of the best in the league, and so it wasn't surprising to me to basically not see Marvin Jones until the second half of this game.
No illusions going into this game. Absolutely. It's just, we want to, I think at this point, there's not much to say about the Lions other than the strength of their roster as it exists. And I think the question you and me have going into this offseason is how much of this is there going to be actual talent that's buried on this team, buried because of the incompetence of Matt Patricia, or how much are these guys just not good?
Yeah.
Or like just not a fit for whatever they're trying to do right now, and how much turnover are we looking at in the months of free agency, of the draft, of the new general manager? And again, we're going to talk about it at the end of the show. But I think I want to take a break here, Jeremy.
Yeah.
When we come back in the Pride of Detroit POD cast, Stafford got hurt again. And once again, everyone's panicking. And I know you approach this with some doom and gloom to describe it, but I feel like that is it, your fears are absolutely something shared among Lions fans. And it is basically, how much more time again are we going to see Stafford taking snaps? We're going to update you on his injury and what that means for the rest of the season. But, the season's in the tank anyway, but, still we got to know. We got to know. So take a quick break, play some grab ass with our Twitch chat and our YouTube chat, where we are also streaming live on YouTube. And we'll be right back on the Pride of Detroit POD cast.
All right. Okay, sorry.
No, I was just, I like giving myself a little more room there, but I just put a marker on my own recorder.
Got it. All right, really quick Twitch chat. Joshua Mercer dropped 10 gifted subs before we even jumped on. As you can see, he has now saved the stash for another week. But in case you're wondering what's under it, Shave the Stash, you can still give subs to that campaign. What that is, once we hit 100 gifted subs for people that want me to shave the stash, I will shave it no matter what. Next week, the Save the Stash campaign moves up to 20 gifted subs. So you need to get 20 gifted subs during next week's Sunday stream to save it. Or if we hit that 100 cumulative gifted subs during any of our streams, then it immediately gets shaved. That's what we're running for the month of December. Maybe further. We'll see if it's still alive. Just kind of something fun to keep things engaging and fun for you guys. Bunch of comments that I don't know if I'll be able to catch up on.
Well, our YouTube chat here is mostly just mad again about the
officiating.
The officiating, yeah. But dude, we don't care about the stash. Tell us what you think about those BS calls by the ref. There weren't BS, guys.
We already talked about it, Mr. Drummond. And
listen. Here's the thing. It's kind of like with judging. Judges in this country. I've been listening to too many legal podcasts, but when there's a play on the field, the chances of refs overturning it, it's not great. You need to, that's why I tell people there's a difference between stands and confirmed. And it's like, in the rule book, it is, Jeremy, you know this, it is about a preponderance of evidence. You have to have stable enough evidence to overturn a call.
Yep.
And I think that as you get more and more bang plays out there in a game, the chance to overturn a call drops significantly. And that's when it goes to replay. You guys see it and you think, oh yeah, there's clear evidence the Lions, should get overturned, but it's not enough half the time. It's just not like that. The onside kick, I saw it. It looked like it hit the white of the out of bounds. And if there's even a hint of that on the replay, they're going to say that it stands because that's not enough evidence to overturn it.
Let me run down the three controversial calls really quick so that we can just get these out of the way and not talk about them again. Because I'm sorry, please. Mr. Drummond, we already talked about penalties and
I'm so tired
officiating.
Of those, as a fan of the Lions, I'm tired of this. Every time we play the Packers, all the people I know seem to lose their mind and start pointing it's like trying to it's like Always Sunny in Philadelphia over here, guys. Get a new act.
All right. Pass interference on the Hail Mary at the end of the first half. By the book, probably a penalty. I don't want that called in today's NFL because you could probably call it on a ton of Hail Marys, change the game in a way that I don't want it to be changed. Whatever. I don't care. I don't want that called as a penalty, but by the book, probably was. Whatever. Marvin Jones catch, bad call. Bad upon review that they didn't overturn it. Unfortunate. That sort of stuff happens in football. Line score, touchdown on the drive anyways. La-di-da. Onside kick, as you mentioned, very hard to see a conclusive review in which that ball doesn't hit the sidelines.
I thought it should have been confirmed on the field. That's what I'm not getting. Yeah.
I didn't see either. It was very close. It looked like Killebrew was in, but wasn't clear if the ball had bounced out of bounds or not. It was called out of bounds on the field. And as Chris just said, you need a very, very, very clear shot to say, to overturn it, and there wasn't one. So
yeah, and by the way, the Packers had several drives where they were just getting hosed on penalties. They were getting backed up quite a bit. I think I'm trying to remember how many penalties. I'm looking up the penalty yards right now.
The Packers had 12 penalties for 68 yards. The Lions had 4 for 30. No controversy here. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That sounds absolutely like LaFleur is slipping the refs $5,000 under the table when they're the ones getting banged up for 3 times the penalties. Like, that's what that sounds like. Yeah, totally being paid off.
It's just there's bad calls in the NFL. You got to deal with them.
It happens.
You got to be good enough to overcome them.
Football is a complicated game. We talk every year in the offseason how hard the rule book is to understand. We talk about these bang bang plays where things are happening in milliseconds. It's going to happen. You're not going to notice when your team's the beneficiary of it.
Last one that I'm going to talk about, there's the holding call. I think it was on Amani Oruwariye on a pass he broke up on a 3rd down. It happened before we even saw the replays. If you go to Chris Burke's, a lot of people thought that flag came late. It didn't come late. Fox just noticed it really late. It came very early in the play. If you go to Chris Burke's Twitter account, he explains it a little bit. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're done. No more referee talk. I'm sorry, chat. It's a waste of everyone's breath. The Lions weren't the better team than the Packers on this game. Were they helped by the refs? No, they weren't. Who cares? Yeah. They weren't going to win this game. We just noticed those calls because again, they're going against you. Yes, we talked about Stafford wouldn't have gotten hurt. Sorry, that's bad luck. That's just what happens. Like,
let's not do this butterfly effect thing.
Let's not
do the butterfly effect?
The refs injured Matthew Stafford. I mean, it sucks, guys. It sucks. You know what?
The refs killed Stafford.
If Matthew Stafford would have been smarter and not scrambled into 2 defenders, he also wouldn't have gotten injured. I mean, that wasn't a smart play by Stafford absorbing that kind of hit either. Let's be honest. Okay?
Oh my God. Like,
the Lions were not better today, Mr. Drummond. I'm sorry, they weren't.
Yeah.
Did they force a punt in the second half?
YouTube chat. You guys are new to this. You're dangerously close to losing some privileges almost right away.
No, you're not. You're fine. You're fine. But just be clear, the Packers did not punt in the second half. They punted twice all day. No, 3 times.
A ball game right there. Yeah. I don't know. This is why I like working in radio, because at least if you're calling into the radio with this kind of stuff, we can hang up on you.
All right. Anyways, we all hate the refs, guys. We all know they make bad calls. It for whatever reason, it seems to get highlighted every time the Lions play the Packers, but the Lions weren't good enough to win in this game, really even close to good enough. So, sorry. It sucks.
I will say
Marvin
this.
Jones didn't get credit for that catch.
The onside kick call sucked, but the fact that they even got close to it, I think, is a fucking miracle.
Right. I mean, such a low percentage
drawing it up. Yeah, we've talked about it, like 1.4% at some point, or 1.9% success rate this year, or like in recent years. Something crazy low. And the fact that Killebrew was even there on that play speaks volumes to how that was drawn up and the bounce that the Lions got. All right, and as Warwick is pointing out, refs didn't allow a 13-minute drive.
All right, we're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
Get back.
No more talking about the refs. Sorry, guys.
Let's talk about your stash instead or something.
I mean, we saved it. We saved it, chat. If anyone wants to get rid of it, though, 90 gifted subs right now will get rid. No, I'm not expecting that. But like I said,
90 gifted subs to me, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what really sucked about this game is, like,
what's that?
Mason Crosby. That bastard. Ooh. He missed 4 field goals 2 years ago.
Dude, this was like
at Ford Field, and
this game.
He set a freaking career record with a dagger of a 58-yarder.
I was going to say, we were talking about it in the hangout. Like, this is a guy who hit it off the crossbar 4 times a few years ago and spawned the name of one of the friends of the POD, Audible Dong. And, like, who came into this game, Jeremy, missing in 2 games, missing 2 extra points. Or was it 3 games, missing 3 extra points? I forget. Yeah. But, like, either way, he was missing some chip shots, and he came to this game and he was ice.
Like I said, set a career long with a 58-yarder.
Yeah,
and it really iced the game. I mean, that made it the Lions finally got a defensive stop. They get a false start on the field goal that pushes a 53 to a 58-yard, and you're like, they're really going to try this? They're really going to try a field goal here? Because if they don't make it, it's a 7-point game, and the Lions have the ball on the 47-yard line, the 48-yard line. That gives them good field position. Yes, I think at that point Stafford was out of the game, so maybe it was a risk they thought was worth taking. Or was Stafford out of the game yet? I don't even remember. Whatever. Either way, It was a risky play, and Crosby, rose to the moment, which was frustrating.
Yeah.
Because we've seen some big kicks made at Ford Field that buried the Lions, Justin Tucker, and it's not fun to watch.
Why you do this? Sorry, I need to take more. Oh, God, I just bit my lip. Your boy's not in a good place right now.
Can there be a save the stash and glue it as a soul patch? Absolutely not. No. He was out by that time? Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. All right. I want to talk some Stafford.
Yeah. I'm trying to heal my lip a second. I will give Cyberpunk. Yeah, no. Why is Chris, who works overnights on weekends, sleepy on a weekend? Yeah. Sorry. I will give Cyberpunk this. Well, it's a fun game. I've been playing it. We streamed a little bit the other night. And thanks for everyone from here who stopped by for that. Also, this they made a cola flavor, and this is honestly better than the Coca-Cola Energy. I am a connoisseur of energy drinks.
That's not a good thing to be a connoisseur of.
No, you can if people want to pay up their points, they can ask me to do a list cast at some point of energy drinks, but not right now. We need to get going on this. Also, fair warning: do not ask for a Ruby cameo. He is sleeping and sound. You can see him behind me. I am not picking him up to interrupt his sleep. He's a lump right now of fur and warmth and joy. Anyway, we should talk about Stafford before Craig decides to shit itself. I warned you, Ketchup. There's your cameo. He's right there. He's right above my thumb right now.
Everyone's just requesting cameos now.
He's right there. Okay. Now you guys are having some fun with this. All right, let's get back to this, Jeremy. Welcome back to the Pride to Detroit PODcast. All right, well, we're going to talk about the fear and panic and loathing lingering over Detroit now, which is, hey, once again, Stafford took a bad hit that has resulted in him holding his head on the sideline, holding various parts of his limbs. I didn't see the injury. What all happened?
It's a rib injury. Don't know exactly.
No availability after the game.
Yep, he was not available after the game. Bevel basically said we don't have an update yet. Don't know if it's long-term or anything, but basically took a shot on a scramble.
Yeah, taking X-rays right now, yeah.
Took a hit on scramble, immediately went to the locker room, came out, tried to test it on the sidelines, was clearly in too much pain, went out, back to the locker room, came out again, tried it again, and it didn't work, and so he sat the rest of the game. And now you're left with, well, a lot of interesting storylines that we probably need to talk about. We need to talk about the fact that this could be, that could be the last game of the season. This could be the second season in a row he's ended his season early with an injury. We know he's been dealing with injury after injury after injury, and he's fought through most of them.
It is piling up, yeah.
It's piling up: finger, hand, wrist, neck,
and
back.
When you get older, that's harder to recover from those things too.
Yep, the recovery times are longer, and let's just go out and say it. There is a small chance Matthew Stafford has already played his last game as a Detroit Lion, his last snap as a Detroit Lion. I don't think it is, but we do have to at least prepare ourselves for that possibility. Maybe by the time this podcast drops on Monday morning, Adam Schefter throws something out. It's not considered that serious. Stafford just needed some rest, expected to play again. I would love for that news to be possible and hear that. I'd love to wake up to that on a Monday morning. But there's a chance we don't. There's a chance that now that the Lions are almost certainly out of the playoff race, that there would be no point in putting him back in the game. Now's the time where we have to talk about his future, though. And again, this is a topic we're probably going to talk about ad nauseum between now and March when, free agency starts and all that sort of stuff. But one kind of interesting thing that this throws into it is that, well, now who is trading for a 32, 33-year-old quarterback who's been injured relentlessly through the past 4 years, hasn't been able to finish a season in the past 2 years? if they are willing to trade for a guy like that, and I mean, I think he still has a ton of value. We see him out on the field and what he can do, but that certainly hurts his value, and it certainly hurts the Lions' potential return. So in essence, does that now mean that he's actually more likely to come back because the Lions aren't likely to recoup maybe a first-round pick or a first-round pick and change with a guy who potentially misses the last 3-4 games of the past 2 seasons? 8 last year, maybe 3 or 4 in this year.
Yeah, I always thought he was going to come back anyway, just for several reasons. One, I think there's not a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that I see the Lions going after. Like, they're just not. I don't think Kyle Trask is really that good. We haven't even talked too much about the draft, but like once you get outside the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, which the Lions are not in, it gets pretty threadbare pretty quick. You're going to see some names rise after the fact, but how many years have we seen that, Jeremy, where a name rises after the fact and then we find out that guy is just not that good? We're just, faffing about trying to find something to do during draft season. So guys like hype up quarterbacks for no goddamn reason. That's what's going to happen. So keep your eyes out for that. Don't fall for that in there. Lions also have to fix a lot of other pieces before they start thinking about the quarterback. I'm a big proponent of that. I don't believe you should draft a quarterback and then throw him into the fire like the Cincinnati Bengals did with Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously you do take Joe Burrow if he's available, but the Lions have time for this rebuild. The other factor too is that, Stafford won't be as much of a dead cap hit next year in 2021 as he is right now, but he's still going to be like $25 million against the dead cap, owed $35 million against the cap. Like that's going to matter for his trade value. Not everyone is going to be willing to break their cap to make that kind of move. And whatever, and if the Lions are going to get that's going to put a premium on whatever kind of value you get back, unless the Lions eat more of that value.
I mean, it's a $19 million cap hit next year in 2021. Let's be clear, because I think there's confusion between next year. We're talking about literally in 4 months next year. $19 million cap hit. What new GM is going to want to come in, trade away one of the most well-liked players in this team, in that locker room, and then himself take on a $19 million cap hit? It's expensive, and then I really think the only way Stafford gets moved, and I think there's almost no chance he gets cut this offseason, is if they get a very, very, very lucrative offer. If they get a first and a second round pick, I would say you have to consider that. Absolutely have to consider that. But like I said, this injury
value,
might, I mean,
but I didn't think his value was, I think because of his contract, I didn't think he was great value to trade to begin with anyway. Like there is definitely, I noticed a lot of guys, I did notice a lot of guys in sports media who have been kind of dunking on Stafford for all these years, suddenly warming up to this idea, oh, he'd be great on this team or that team or the other team. But at the same time, I just never saw the logistics working out to the point that I think the Lions, if you can get some value for him, you get some value for him, Jeremy. But I think at the end of the day, unless you're getting back primo value, it's going to not look like a great trade for the Lions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it is. But I've always held this idea because, again, the other factor, not a great lot of quarterbacks in this draft, and you're not in a good position in the draft to go after them. And whoever comes in, you're going to need a stopover year with Stafford as your quarterback. And if you want to really tank it, I would hope maybe like you take Stafford versus, I mean, for me as a fan, I'd rather see Stafford under center next year if we're going to kind of suck and kind of faff about versus watching Chase Daniel under center. Unless, because I'm also not a tank guy either, though. So, I mean, I think if you are a tank guy, maybe you want Chase Daniel under center. But.
Right. Or David Blau.
Blau.
But I think there's a couple points to make here. The first is this doesn't take quarterback off the table to me for the draft at all. I think they probably keep Stafford.
It's still a need.
It's still a need, and if you're in the top 6, top 7, which is certainly possible if the Lions lose out, and you find a guy that you like, you pull the trigger. But I'm also, what you said earlier, I'm a full proponent of, you don't throw a rookie into the fire like that, because this team is a fire. The defense is a fire. The offensive line still has a couple pieces to figure out. So you keep Stafford around for a year. You braise your rookie and some juices during 2021. Then Stafford's contract becomes very, very movable in 2021. And so if he doesn't lead the team to a playoff win in I'm sorry, in 2022. If he doesn't lead the team to a playoff and win in 2021, then you trade him. Yes, you're not going to get as much as you probably could get this offseason, but then you got your rookie quarterback there ready to go and hopefully a better team around him by the time 2022 comes around.
Yeah, and listen, I will say this for any kind of quarterback that does come in, you at least, like you mentioned the offensive line, there's a couple pieces of fix there, but Decker, Ragnow, Jonah Jackson is a decent core enough to start with right there.
Yep.
That's enough to kind of keep you protected. There's some we'll have to see what the wide receiver options are going to be, but you're going to have a tight end in TJ Hawkinson, which is also going to help you on pass blocking, and also a threat himself. Who knows what you get with DeAndre Swift? Like, offense is in a good place where you can get a quarterback and plug in, but I also believe that right now I would make the defense the priority in this draft, just because goddamn, I am so tired of not having a pass rush. I mean, Jeremy, I'm losing my mind.
There's no question. Defense needs to be priority, but it's all about just having the right guys in the right spot. I am of the belief, like, you have a top 7 pick, you have to hit on a top impact position, right? And quarterback is obviously at the top of that list. Wide receiver, I think, is up there. And obviously a pass rusher is. But there needs to be the correct player there, right? Like, there needs to be the elite talent. And I'm not about to dip my foot into some of the players that I like in the NFL draft because I'm just not prepared to do so. There's way too much happening right now. Yeah. We don't even have a GM, so we don't even know what kind of defense we're going to run, any of that sort of stuff. But if there's not an elite pass rusher there at 7, I wouldn't mind them going wide receiver. I wouldn't mind them going quarterback.
No, they've got multiple things. I wouldn't even mind a linebacker at this point. We got to fix with the linebackers.
But that's just a little high for a linebacker. You'd have to get a very, very good 3-down linebacker.
Unless the Lions trade down. We haven't even done our annual trade up.
Are we already trying to let's accumulate picks, guys? We only got 5 picks in the draft. We got to trade down. Got to trade down.
Why can't I hold all these picks? Why can't I hold all of them?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, from a fan perspective, it would suck if this is the last game for Stafford. Because, I mean, God, this is kind of the hard legacy about it. I've even heard some people saying that he's going to get Hall of Fame votes now, which I don't know if Stafford will get Hall of Fame votes. No. To me, he's Hall of Very Good. He'll be a Lions Ring of Honor name.
Yeah.
Whenever 100%. He's done with the Lions, it's unequivocal that he is the best quarterback the Lions have ever had, period. Yes, even better than Bobby Lane, because I'm sorry, Bobby Lane played quarterback in the 50s.
Right.
Like, I've seen tape of Bobby Lane throwing. It's ducks. It's all ducks back then. But that's how you could play at quarterback in the bloody 50s. So Stafford, best quarterback the Lions have had, hands down. That doesn't automatically mean that he's one of the greatest across the leagues. It's just shallow pool a little bit sometimes when it comes to the Lions. And I don't know, man. It would suck because, as you say, it's a stability that the Lions have had at that position, something they've never really had for a very long time. And it's kind of hard. It's hard to replace it. It's a little easier now to replace it. There's a lot of hope in replacing it. And you just hope that you kind of swing and hit on the right one. And I think whoever comes in, and we're going to talk about general manager here soon too, you've got to really, that is going to be your priority, man. I think if Stafford is done as Lion too, I think that shifts who is going to be among the head coaching candidates, because I think the shift might swing towards you want to find someone who is going to develop and nurture a young quarterback. First and foremost, I think it was always going to be part of the equation for whoever the Lions hire as their head coach, because the reality of Stafford's age and his contract and how many years he really had left here. But at the same time, I think it becomes a higher priority if Stafford ends the season on the IR.
And that leads, I mean, we had the conversation on Thursday about Brian Daboll. That's exactly what the Bills did, and it's paying off with Josh Allen.
Go back and listen to that. Like, Daboll has been doing just God's work, turning Josh Allen, which draft Twitter still hates irrationally, but they've turned Josh Allen into a fantastic weapon.
But yeah, back to Stafford for now. I mean, if I hate even bringing it up because, one, I don't think it's going to happen, and two, it would be too painful for this to be his swan song with Detroit. But in essence, it perfectly encapsulates his time here, is that he went down swinging. He went down, throwing caution into the wind, running, scrambling for a 5-yard run in what was probably going to be a wasted effort to try to save a game in which, again, the defense let him down, in a season in which the defense let him down, a season in which the coaches let him down and rung him in when he needed to be let loose. That's the story of Matthew Stafford in Detroit. There were flashes of coaches and moments of brilliance where it was just like, let him just throw the ball 500 times, rack up 5,000 yards, and let's at least get to the playoffs. And he did multiple times. He brought the Lions back to relevancy for 10 years, and then it was all taken away by stupid coaches, by shitty defenses, and he's going to be left with a legacy of him essentially putting the team on his back and breaking his back for this team. And I don't want to, write his eulogy right now because there's a lot to still happen. But that's how I'm going to remember Matthew Stafford, as a guy who took this franchise on his back, threw caution into the wind, threw his own body on the line, played some really freaking entertaining football, and made the Lions fun to watch again. But unfortunately, everyone around him let him down, and it sucks.
Well, yeah, listen, I'm not going to write the eulogy, as you're saying. I think there are some blemishes to that. Stafford's decision-making sometimes, especially early on, was never great. And it always seemed that he would kind of turn it on too little too late in some games where he was struggling. And there were some years where the rest of the team, like 2014 always sticks out to me. Where
that's the only year, though. That's the only year that they were good.
But that was also
defense.
the year where he had the best shot.
And the coaches let him down.
The argument was always that, like, yeah. We can talk about Joe Lombardi, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I'm talking about Jim Caldwell letting him down by not going for it on fourth down against the Cowboys. But
I want to look more towards this year. And even I would say to someone, I'm not as doom and gloom about Jeremy, because I think even if the Lions shut him down to end the year, still a good chance we might see him back. Because listen, the last 3 games the Lions have: Titans, Bucks, Vikings. 2 teams with incredibly strong defense.
3, really. I mean, the Vikings maybe aren't what they used to be, but the Vikings always seem to have the Lions number.
Yeah, it hurts to play the Vikings, that's for sure. But, I mean, and again, if you are of the mind that, hey, maybe we just shut it down for draft position, I know the coaching staff, they're playing for, to do this audition thing and everything, and there's no one in the front office who can kind of supersede them to shut players down and preserve them for the next season. I get that, but I think if it does happen, it might honestly be for the benefit of whoever comes in next, because you avoid it. And I mean, listen, we're still waiting for the results back on Stafford. Ultimately, it's kind of one of these things where we've got to do this live and expect the chips to kind of fall as we're thinking. So I know every time Stafford has been getting hit the last 6 weeks or whatever, I've seen people kind of hold their breaths every time. And yeah, I get it. But I feel like we should move on.
Really quick before we head to break. Just even without putting the long term into perspective right now, the short term is what really kind of bothers me, because the Lions have been fun to watch the last 2 weeks, and Matthew Stafford has played an integral part in that. We saw what this team looks like with backup quarterbacks last year. It's not fun, because the defense is still going to suck, and now the offense is probably going to suck now too. And so we have to now sit through 3 games against teams in the playoff hunt with, again, assuming Matthew Stafford is out for at least a game or 2, probably the entire season, means we have to sit and watch David Blower. We have to sit and watch Chase Daniel.
Keep his name out of your lips. He did have a rushing touchdown.
No, he didn't.
Here.
Oh, he had a wiped out touchdown.
Wiped out by a.
He did throw one.
That is real. That is the real ref conspiracy. There is a holding call to wipe out the glory of Chase Daniel running it in for a touchdown to do some late game freaking heroics for you.
He did. To give him credit, he had one very good throw to Marvin Jones on the 3rd and 9.
He had a decent drive. Yeah. It was like that and the rushing touchdown that was wiped out. That was.
We're not giving credit for a run that didn't happen.
I will.
But yeah, it just means like
determination.
It means essentially not only is the season over in terms of the playoff race, it means the fun is over. We're probably not going to enjoy these last 3 games much if Matthew Stafford can't come back, which means we're just going to be talking about GM and coaching stuff basically for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I'm sure the killjoys among among Team Lions tank will be cheering for that, to have him shut down. But I mean, I've got 3 more sleepless Sundays to go, and I'd rather have some cool fun with them rather than just being like, Here we go. We got to talk about Chase Daniel or David Blau. Like, I don't think any of us win. I really don't. Except for you guys who are like looking at Tankathon and nervously trying to figure out where the chips lie. But let's take a break. I think I want to talk about the general manager coming up here. If you've been following the Pride of Detroit PODcast feed, we've done, I think, 2 podcasts now, technically 3 podcasts with the Listcast on head coaching ideas. We did the Listcast with, we each gave, our top 3 coaching candidates for the Lions. And we've talked to people about Robert Saleh, and we've talked to the Athletic about Brian Dable. And I think we might have some more coming up here. And I might have to go and invite a friend to shut down the very idea of Harbaugh as a specific podcast.
Nope.
No, but I'm saying I'm bringing him on to say, no, let's not do Harbaugh.
Okay, is it a 10-second podcast where he just says no and then we hang up?
I think you've got to win people over on this a little bit, Jeremy.
I don't think anyone in Lions land is even considering Harbaugh.
Okay.
But anyways,
there
was some GM news that we're going to talk about.
We want to talk about that, yes. So real quick, take a break, settle everyone down, and we'll be right back on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Okay. Put a marker there. Pull up chat again.
Pull up the news.
Guys, I'm trying not to be the Lane Kiffin guy. I'm trying to be nice. I'm not even trying to do it. He was 3rd on my list, and you guys bring it up every time because I think you guys are like, you want me to you want me to do it. Kiffin should be a bigger nerd than Harbaugh. See, that's where I will disagree, and that's where I'll start defending Kiffin. Kiffin is absolutely a better choice than Jim Harbaugh.
Look what you did, chat. You got him talking about Lane Kiffin again.
I'm gonna stop. I promise you, I'll stop.
Really quick, LJB Ruff with the 10-month subscription in a row, 13 total over a year now. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Thanks for the follow, dangly nuts. Appreciate it. I don't care. I know you just followed to make me say that, and I knew it from the get-go, but I have to thank our followers. And Moogle, also thank you for the follow. I don't know what that means. And I think I missed One Pride 97. Thank you for the follow. You youngin'. Yeah, yes, 23 so-and-so.
Alien Visitor, I think that's a question more for Jeremy than it is for me.
Would you rather talk refs or Kiffin? Ugh, I would not rather talk about either. I would rather take the bullet. Is that an option? Lefty Detroit with the 9 months. Death Strike Forever with the 4 months says, OMG, what a game. It was an entertaining game, and that's why I'm eulogizing Stafford a little early right now, is because if he can't play the rest of these games, I don't think we got a fun one left on the schedule, if we're being honest.
JJMFH, here's the thing. I want to read this one because I feel like we kind of glossed over this in our way to talking about Stafford's career. So JJMFH, Elway won late in his career. Stafford is good enough. Get him a good coach and a bleeping team around him. He's only 32. Listen, man, Stafford's not at that same tier as John Elway was. Again, one of the things I kind of glossed over there is that, as I said, Stafford is the best quarterback the Lions have had in history, but that doesn't make him one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. John Elway was absolutely S tier in his time. And he never had a lot of help around him. He wasn't Montana or Marino, but he absolutely was up there. Now, like the better comp for a guy like Elway there late in his career is Peyton Manning's corpse being dragged to the mountaintop by that heinous Broncos defense over the Carolina Panthers. I don't like, but to make what the Broncos had in that defense, that's a lot of pieces to be drafted, to picked up. The Lions are not close enough with their work on the rest of this roster to drag Stafford to the mountaintop. We haven't even won a playoff game since the 90s. You have to start there first. You can't go 0 to 100.
Listen, I do think Stafford can still bring a team to a Super Bowl. I do think he's talented enough. There are some inconsistencies there, but he's certainly above, like, I think the threshold you need to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Listen, I'm not saying he's a bum. I'm just saying, like, already I don't think you're going to be winning a Super Bowl because of Stafford without significant pieces around him and supporting him.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the point right now. Stafford is 32, and this Lions team is not going to be competitive for at least 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. No, to build something like say the Broncos had, that's a long-term project.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not a Stafford hater. I'm trying to be realistic about Stafford. I think you guys pump him up way too much, and like I get it. When all you watch are Lions games sometimes, it's kind of hard to see the forest for the trees. Like Stafford's fine, but he's not this messiah I think sometimes guys make him out to be. I'm asking you to be realistic about what a quarterback's role is. Stafford, like, and this goes across the board too, man. We've talked about this before, how much sports talk devolves into quarterbacks being these holy messianic saviors that can win or lose a game on their own. That's not true, and it's not true of Stafford either. But I mean, I'm trying to evaluate Stafford based on his individual talent. And to start out the year, guys, he was not good. Like his efficiency was not good at all, and we can have a lot of different reasons for it. I guess I don't know.
I think one thing a lot of people are doing, and I might be even a little bit guilty of this, is I think they're glossing over some of that bad play and just saying, you know what, it's because they didn't let Stafford loose.
We are selective, and I know one of the things
true, but it's not. It doesn't explain all of Stafford's struggles.
And I know one of the things I fight with fans about, and sometimes you, Jeremy, about is how much blame Stafford takes, because I feel like too much, and I don't know how much of it true, but just to play devil's advocate, I find sometimes we give too much fault to everyone else, and Stafford, we stay mum about it. It's everyone else's fault some games. That's just how we view it.
I mean, I think you're overgeneralizing a little bit because I mean, there are people that slam Stafford every week. There's
oh sure, no, there's definitely, but those are Stafford haters, like
right. Like, there's Stafford haters and there's balance in the world. There's people that will defend Stafford at every corner of the earth, and there are people that'll slam him every. I think the ultimate truth is, and I think we probably both agree, is Stafford is a very, very good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. Probably has never been an elite quarterback. I think he's past the threshold of Super Bowl contender winning quarterback. I think he can win a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen here in the next 2 years.
He's in that category where you have a guy like, say, Matt Ryan, where there's 1 or 2 years that you're going to get out of that quarterback in their career where they are going to be putting up MVP caliber play.
Yes.
And then after that, they'll either take a step back, or you might not see it again, or you'll see flashes. And that's what we had with Stafford. 2016 was fucking brilliant. Some of those early years where he's just throwing and throwing and throwing, great. But there's been other years, and again, these are where the excuses come out. And I think some of those excuses, those are part of it, but I think part of it too is like sometimes I just see the guy make bad decision making. Fine, okay, Chris, who the next QB? I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, and that's ultimate where my anxiety kicks in, is like, I don't want to be on the other side because I don't know what's on the other side, because I've been through, I've been alive 34 years. 12 of that has been with Stafford. The other 22 has been with nobody. Been with Joey Harringtons and I'm trying to think of any quarterback from the 90s, but like they were all just not very good. And so that's frightening. It's frightening to potentially go out and grab the next Mitchell Trubisky and hamstring your team for the next 4 to 5 years. Even if you have one of the best defenses in the league, you still can't get over the hump because you have Mitchell freaking Trubisky. And so all that sort of stuff is terrifying.
Or you could be just in an awful, god-awful situation like, say, the Broncos are, where for one reason or another, they've just refused to draft good quarterbacks. After Peyton Manning, like they're just stuck with Drew Lock until the end of time. Seferiite, Patrick Mahomes and Stafford to trade for each other. Who has more success? Absolutely, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean,
I know the rest of that Chiefs team is really good, but I'm sorry, you watch Patrick Mahomes play, man. That raw talent, I don't know how you deny that. Like that talent that he has, the ability to make plays, to scramble around and just keep plays alive. Stafford does not have that ability. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it.
Before we get into our final segment, I want to bring up a Lions tweet, which I don't know. It's weird. It's almost ominous, and the timing is weird, and I don't quite understand it. But they tweeted out just a picture of Matthew Stafford in kind of this bold font that just says.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I thought I was going to quote tweet that, and I'm like, this is probably not a good time to send that out. Yeah,
I don't quite get it. Like, I don't know what they're like. I don't know. I agree. The dude is tough as nails, and it's just kind of it's weird, and
it seems poorly timed.
I don't know.
I
don't know. It's sad that was a real bummer to cap what was a mostly entertaining game, and I mean, if you haven't been able to tell yet, I'm pretty bummed about the
Chad,
future
are
of
you
Stafford.
holding Patrick Mahomes' play at Texas Tech against him when he's playing in the NFL right now? Are you high? Are you insane? Are you stupid? Stop this. You guys are better than this.
Relax.
You're better than this.
Chad is wild in tonight. But no, I mean, I don't think anyone is talking trash about Andy Reid. Andy Reid's super talented. He made Alex Smith look pretty darn good, but Patrick Mahomes isn't playing at Alex Smith's level. He took that offense to an incredible.
I just don't
an
know
offensive
how
level
you
we've
watch.
never seen.
They were down double digits in every game, in almost every playoff game last year. And every time Patrick Mahomes brought them back, making just plays. You and I were sitting around going like, how the hell did he make that play? Like,
all right. Enough Stafford moaning, enough debates about. I mean, we could debate Stafford. We'll probably have
we're
three pure Matthew Stafford episodes this offseason where we're just debating the legacy of him, debating whether he's elite or not. All that stuff. We'll get to that, but for now,
I would prefer not to.
Well, then you don't have to be. You can do
Bart
your
will be
own
the Scrivener.
Jim Harbaugh podcast then.
Bart'll be the Scrivener.
Oh my God, we have 2 articles in the hopper and no.
Oh, no editors. Well, let's pump this out real quick so you can get to that then. This will take no more than probably 10 minutes to get done then.
All right, I'm just going to throw the Sunday Night Football thread up, even though we're already a quarter in.
Scoreless quarter, even.
Okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So far, Craig hasn't crapped out on us, although I'm just crap.
Yep, he's leaving now.
We've had a lot of trouble. I know someone's left us a nasty review because Craig keeps crashing our recording bot, and I have to skim it sometimes from YouTube and from Discord, and that means some of the alerts make it in, and people are mad at that, which I apologize. Sometimes we just don't have the tech works against us.
I apologize, but I'm also super, super sorry that 1 out of our 500 podcasts had a little bit of extra noise. I'm sure that we'll give you your free money back.
And I even go in and if the touchdown, if the Dan Miller call for the notifications in there, I'll go and scrub it out and edit it out. But I'm not going to edit out all the little bits things. And the bits thing is just a quick blip. Yeah. So if you're complaining about that, you've got problems.
Sorry, I'm salty, me. Chat. We've gotten a lot of bad reviews.
We're all salty
on our podcast for whatever reason. I mean,
80% of them are about me, Jeremy. Don't make this. Don't.
Well, either way,
exactly where the problem
if you do
is.
enjoy the podcast, I would honestly, I'd like you guys to go make a review because for what we put in a ton of work, and I know most people enjoy the podcast. I know a lot of people enjoy the podcast. It's just frustrating to see 3 negative reviews right at the top. So.
The only thing I really object
Consider
to is
me
people saying
the
I don't. Yeah, people saying I don't know football, guys. I don't.
Who cares?
No, it insults me a little bit.
Who cares what they say?
It hurts.
I just who cares what
the people care. People,
but the people that are here don't care because they like us. So let's fuck those guys.
I don't know that.
They do.
clearly,
so
clearly,
the only
kick Chris.
I just want you guys that are here. If the one I don't care about follows or subscriptions or bits or anything like that. The one thing I would like you to do is if you enjoy this podcast, please go out on Apple Podcasts and give us a good review because
it's not fair
to the work that we put in.
The only review that really hurt me was There was a review. I think it ended up being 3 stars. It was Chris will wake up Ruby for a cameo 0 5 stars. Yeah, no, listen, like there was one podcast. I think you guys saw me. I was emotional when it looked like Assembly Bill 5 in California was going to take this podcast away from me. And then I saw a review that was written after I was gone saying, now that Chris is gone, the podcast is good. And then when I came back, someone went in and edited it and says, okay, Chris is back. It's bad again. Like that's what hurts. Like I bust my ass and, doing all this stuff. Like, I'm sorry. Sometimes I got to be serious about it because I consider myself a professional at this. So
no, none of the reviews are about the mustache. Otherwise we would have like a 5, we probably have a 6-star rating if people were talking about the mustache. Let's be honest.
Yeah, seriously.
Hot Soup, thank you for the 4-month subscription. He says, honestly, Jeremy, they must not like it because they can't see the stash. See, that's what I'm talking about. And then Catch Up with the 100 Bits says, Chris talks crazy sometimes, but I love him.
Yeah, I'd rather be someone. I'm not gonna.
It's fine. All right,
I'd rather do.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
This is too self-involved.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it anymore. My only plea is that if you enjoy the podcast, please support us in that way. That's it.
I'm sorry, CJ Craig. It's a different Craig. We love you, CJ Craig. Cleveland Indians are changing their names, apparently.
That's fun.
Really hope they go with Cleveland baseball team.
Yes, please.
It should be the new trend, man. Just finally embrace the European in us and just teams are just the cities. Oh, do we have a hype train going?
Do we? Chat, do we need to put it on pause, or are you guys...
No, we should go. We should go.
Patman with the 100 Bits says we love you guys. I appreciate that, Patman.
All right, let's knock this out. Then we can play some grab ass afterwards.
Okay.
Wrapping up the Pride of Detroit POD cast. Just throwing this one in the bin, but I do want to talk, Jeremy. We had some news out today. We, as I said before the break, we've talked quite a bit about the coaching search the Lions will have to do eventually, because I think that's where we can jump on a little bit easier, talking about head coaches. And the candidates are a little more apparent versus what is for a general manager. For whatever reason in the NFL, it's not a general manager driven league like, say, the NBA is or baseball is. In those sports, those general managers, you have good ideas of who good general managers are. I don't even know, aside from the name Jed York, no, Trent Baalke, Jed York's an owner. See, like, just like that, I get GMs confused. But there is some interesting news coming out about the Lions. The first bit is that, unlike last time, the Lions are not using a search firm. A lot of other NFL teams are using a search firm. It's league controlled and everything. But last year, last time around, the Lions got a search firm. They went and got Eric Accorsi to consult, Ernie Accorsi to consult. Martha Firestone Ford leaned on him pretty heavily, and Ernie was the one who suggested Bob Quinn, which led us then to Matt Patricia. The Lions are not using a search firm now. So I'm kind of curious how you feel first about that, and then we'll talk about the other 2 points here.
Yeah, I think it does feel like anytime news about the GM search hits, there's like 2 opposite, very emotional reactions. One, when they say they're not using a GM or not using a search firm for a GM search, one half is like, thank God they learned their lesson. Didn't use a GM search. It's all going to be great. Sheila's totally different. Everything's great. And then there's the other, like, they're not using a search firm. Those idiots, they're not doing their due diligence. They're just going to hire someone internally, and it's all going to be terrible, and Lions lose, SOL, SOL, SOL. It's like, all right, everyone calm down. First of all, search firms, turns out, probably not all that useful. They give you names that everyone is already giving you names that basically we're already all putting on websites.
Yeah, listen, you can listen to our podcast to read Ryan Matthews' article on prideofdetroit.com. And
Exactly.
that's just as good as a search firm.
But overall, yeah, I guess I'm glad that they're not wasting their money. That's it. So yeah, I don't
not my money. I don't care what they do.
I don't feel that strongly about them not choosing not to use a search firm. It is a bit surprising because Sheila Ford said in her opening press conference after the firings that she expected to. She thought they probably would. But to me, maybe since that she learned like, oh, I don't need to. Like I did research on search firms and realized, you know what, I'm better off without them, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. I don't think anyone should really get in histrionics about it either way.
Yeah. And already, even without the search firm, we've seen some candidates come out. I mean, I think it was Jason Lockenfora, and then I know David Burkett corroborated this, but Jerry Reese, former Giants general manager, he's kind of come out as a leading name and everything. Depends where you ask about that era of Giants football. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you feel about his track record there. Now, to your point about the people who are hating on the move, though, to not use the search firm, this is the bait for those people. This is the chum in the water for those people, in that the Lions are apparently going to be interviewing 3 internal candidates.
They already did.
For the general. They've already conducted
Yes.
interviews with 3 internal candidates for the general manager position.
Yes. And let me throw out their names really quick. Vice President of Player Personnel, Kyle O'Brien. Director of Player Personnel, Lance Newmark, and the Director of Pro Scouting, Rob Lohman. Now, of those guys, Kyle O'Brien is the highest. He's basically like the assistant general manager. He's the Dwight Schrute of the office. He's the assistant to the general manager. Now all 3 of these guys are essentially working together as general manager with Rod Wood, which everyone seems very, very pleased about, but we don't need to get into that in this podcast. O'Brien came from the Patriots, but he's also worked with the Chiefs, the Jaguars. He's only been in since 2000. He's only been with the Lions since 2019, so doesn't have a lot of Lions stink on him, but he does obviously come from the Patriots, and I think that might be a reason some people worry about him. But again, kind of has long tenure in the NFL in these kind of personnel decision departments. So you're getting a guy with a lot of experience, no GM experience, but a lot of experience both on the pro and college side. Makes a lot of sense to at least give that guy an interview. Lance Newmark is one that probably won't be popular with Lions fans, considering he spent 23 of his 25 years in the NFL right here in Detroit, and we all know how that has seemingly worked out in the past 23 years. Not so well. But again, he's a guy that has experience on both the pro and college scouting side of things. Lohman, also kind of a long-time employee with the Lions. He's been here 14 years, so maybe a little bit more of the successful years. And I'm using successful very relatively for Detroit. But again, mostly on the college side, but now he's the director of pro scouting. So again, both sides. All to say, everyone relax. You can pretty much only interview internal candidates right now, and the Lions would be wise to do it. 1, just to see who they have. 2, to see what went wrong. I mean, why not just talk to these guys and be like, all right, where did we mess up in these past 5 years? What did Bob Quinn do wrong that you would have done differently? All of that sort of information is valuable to this franchise, and so this is the first step of a GM search right now. When a mid-season GM search, you got to talk to the guys that are inside the building to see if you could also be interviewing to see if they're worth keeping around once you hire a general manager.
And listen, like I think we are in this is an awkward place to be, because I know, like, if you're at your own job and your boss above you gets fired and you apply for that job because you think you can do a better job than he did, like, you don't want other people to say, well, you obviously can't do the job because your boss was an idiot and got fired. Like, that's not a stain you want on you. So I do want to push back on it, and I don't feel like we can just take all of Bob Quinn's failures and say that's also the fault of everyone who is beneath him either. I'd like to at least talk to those people. I'd like to see what they're about. I'd like to get, what they're about, what their ideas would be. Maybe someone in the organization had good ideas who just wasn't being listened to. It happens. We don't need to throw out everything. We don't need to defenestrate everyone right just when the king is thrown out too. Like, that's something that makes me a little uncomfortable when I see the revulsion at this idea that the Lions are interviewing internal candidates. Because again, if this was at your job and your boss got fired and he was a crappy boss and you applied for his position because you would want to move up, you don't want someone telling you, "Oh, you're just like your boss." No, you know that you're different from that. That's very you would recognize that immediately. That's very unfair to me. And I want to push back on that a little bit. I don't think everyone who works in the Lions front office is some just schmuck who can't draft linebackers. That's not fair.
It's also good practice, right? If you're treating your own employees like, hey, you guys deserve an interview, that gets noticed. That's the kind of things where it's like, okay, this isn't a shit organization that treats their employees like garbage. Culture is important, especially when you're about to go on a hiring search for a bunch of people. That sort of stuff gets noticed where you're like, okay, that's fair for you to give these guys a chance. And do I think any of these guys have a realistic chance at winning the job? Probably not. Do I think? I think Kyle O'Brien probably has the best shot because he's got a pretty deep resume and he's been around some successful organizations, not just the Patriots. And clearly he knows, what the Lions are all about right now. And you'd hope he has some different ideas, like you said. Maybe he just wasn't being heard enough. Maybe he had an impact. Maybe he didn't want to get Jeff Okudah. Maybe he didn't want to get T.J. Hawkinson. He wanted to get a more impactful position. Maybe those things happened, and he just didn't get listened to. And so you do your due diligence here. You see what you got, and you see, maybe if these are guys that you want to have in the building, even if they're not for necessarily the general manager job. Because guess what? When you go through a new general manager, you don't overhaul everything. You don't change every single regional scout, all that sort of stuff. You have to keep some of those guys around because you're not going to be able to replace them in all.
It's a huge part of the organization. It employs a lot of people to do a lot of different things.
Exactly.
Some of these scouts who are with the Lions, they've been through multiple front offices.
Most of them.
Some of these guys probably remember Matt Millen, and they've been there since. Doesn't mean they're bad at their job.
You can't just take, Ed Dodds and just like bring the entire Seahawks organization or wherever he is now. You can't have them just like, I'm going to take all of your regional scouts. Like, no, you have to keep some guys inside the building, at least in your first year, and then just kind of rotate them in. So the Lions are doing their due diligence. All to say that the Lions are doing their due diligence, which is absolutely what they should be doing, what every team will be doing at this point if they're looking for a general manager. And don't get mad. Who cares?
Yeah, and to be honest, like, is every guy outside the organization that great too? Like, I see Jerry Reese as, one of these early names, and all I think about is, God, it ended badly for the Giants.
The Giants drafting under Jerry Reese is not particularly good. I know they won 2 Super Bowls, but one was in Reese's first year, which is how much credit are you going to give a GM in his first year for building an entire team? Like, no, they probably came in with some pretty good foundations if they went to a Super Bowl in his first year. But yeah, and then like you said, things turned sour quite quickly. Not a lot of great.
We had 2 years with Jerry Reese deciding Ben McAdoo should be your head coach in New York too. So right.
There you go.
So okay, one of the other interesting stories, and we'll wrap with this one here, Jeremy, is that, as I said, they're not using a search firm. However, Mike Disner is a big name that has kind of come up. He's been with Detroit for about 14 years. He's
been in Detroit since 2019. He's been in the
NFL for 14. I'm sorry. Yes. This is going to get us another 1-star review. But no, like he joined the team earlier. Yeah. In 2019, he's kind of a cap. He's a cap guru kind of guy.
Yep.
He has a lot of expertise in contract negotiations. And I think he's going to be a big part of whatever comes next, because I think we've talked about this enough this season. Some of it is going to come up. Like, and maybe this is part for Disner, but like Kenny Galladay's contract never got resolved and probably has to be resolved going into the free agency period. And we've talked about this before. A lot of other guys from the Boston boys are on these short-term contracts. A couple of them are on sweeter contracts, but the Lions are going to have to overhaul a lot of these contracts or cut a lot of these contracts to afford themselves the space they're going to need to make this rebuild happen in a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, and I mean, the contract stuff will come, and I don't know if Disner's going to be around or not. It sounds like he's going to be around in some capacity because essentially, as Dave Burkett put, he expects Disner to be a big part of their general manager search. He expects him to have a big input there, which means he's probably going to stick around. That to me is good news. It's mostly good news. This is a guy who's had really kind of an illustrious NFL career. He started with the Patriots, but only for a couple of years. Then he actually moved to the NFL side of things, where he kind of worked on, working out like the collective bargaining agreement, working out like the weird NFL rules on their side. Then he went over to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals had a nice stretch in the 2010s, up to the 2020s. Basically was their kind of cap guru for a while. So he knows the ins and outs of what it is to be a general manager on the contractual side of things. He's seen what it looks like from the talent development as well. And so, I mean, all that to say, the Lions have someone that knows how a football team works, helping them make decisions on a general manager. It's not just Sheila Ford Hamp and Rod Wood. And to me, that's a little bit relaxing. It's a little.
He's kind of playing the role of Ernie Accorsi did
a little bit, yeah.
Last, not as overarching. He's not the consultant that Accorsi was, but he's also the other guy in the room alongside the Fords and Rod Wood.
Yeah, and I went on this podcast a couple weeks back when Sheila Ford Hamp had that press conference, said like, it doesn't sound like she has a plan. It sounds like Rod Wood and her are going to make this decision, and Rod Wood and Martha Ford made a decision 5 years ago and it didn't work out, and now they're screwed again. Now it sounds like they at least have a third person in this ear who knows what it's like to build a football team. He knows what it's like to work with several kind of GMs. He's got connections. And so to me, that's a little dismantling. Not dismantling. It's a little relieving, and doesn't mean they're going to get it right. Obviously, we don't know that yet, but just to have a third person in that room to help them through the search that isn't Ernie Accorsi makes me feel kind of okay.
Yeah, makes you feel a little better about it. I absolutely agree on that.
Yeah, and so you're left with the GM search that I think the next step, where do we go from here, is maybe even in the next week or two, we could hear some completed interviews for some guys that don't have jobs yet. Because Lions, let's be clear, the reason why they're interviewing their internal guys is because you can't interview anyone who currently holds a job with the team until the regular season is over.
Yeah, so it's either former guys like, again, Jerry Reese, or it's internal guys. That's all you can really do right now.
And so, just throwing random names out here, Louis Riddick fans, that could certainly come next. I mean, you might as well interview the guy. Sure. Sounds like maybe he's interested. We'll see. Thomas Dimitroff, the Falcons GM that was fired earlier this season, might be a little quick to give him a retread try already, but I know Schlitt is a big fan over there at LionsWire. I think that Falcons team has had a lot of talent for a long time, and I certainly don't think the reason why they struggle right now is talent. I think the coaching of that team was garbage. As soon as they let Kyle Shanahan go, we saw that offense take a big step away. They chose wrong at coach there, and so we're seeing kind of the mistakes there. But in terms of talent, I think the Falcons have been great. So Dimitroff is a name in which you could see in the next week or two. There's also a bunch of other guys, but for now,
no love for Chris Spielman.
No, he's not
talk
a GM.
To Chris Spielman right now.
Nope. He's not a general manager.
Good. You've learned your damn lesson. I hope other people do.
Let's just take another Matt Millen. Let's take another linebacker out of the freaking
booth and just throw him in there. Yeah,
it's a great idea.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Apparently the only people in the world who can pull that off are the Raiders. And last I checked, it is not the Detroit Raiders.
Plus, Matt Millen was a Raider, so
that too. Yeah. I'm just saying it's apparently working out right now for the Raiders. Who knows for how much longer? Either way, you can't have that luck as the Lions. I think that's going to do it for us. As you said, there's a lot we've got to work out through this week. We're kind of sitting upon the precipice. If you're listening to this when it comes out on Monday, it's going to be a pretty busy week here for the Lions. So make sure to be reading Pride of Detroit, prideofdetroit.com. Subscribe to the podcast feed on your favorite podcast platforms. Follow us on Twitch, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at Pride of Detroit. We're going to get you all the information you need because, woo boy, going into the next game against the Titans, a lot of storylines to be covered, a lot of things to be resolved, a lot more storylines will develop and just kind of throw themselves out. We're going to have to see about Stafford's health. We're going to have to see about more general manager candidates coming up. We're going to have another interview, probably some more head coaching hunting and trying to get those names out for you guys. And we're just going to be busy, man. That's what it is. This is our time to shine. No playoffs, but plenty of work to be done. So for myself, for Jeremy Reisman, catch Jeremy on Twitter at Detroit Online. Find myself, Chris Perfett, at Chris Perfett on Twitter, PERFETT. And we are done here. Pride of Detroit PODcast number 500 and something is in the books. And folks, we will see you Starside.
Congrats, Mrs. Rock God.
Oh God. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Do people even know that?
I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna tell Craig to get out of here because I don't think Craig made it through without crashing.
Hey,
guys.
Round of applause for our recorder. Made it through the entire podcast this time.
I'll see if there's some chop last time on it too, so we'll see if it did that too.
But yeah, chat. If you don't know, and it's also the reason why he's not here. Ryan Matthews, our normal third co-host here, did get engaged over the weekend. He was in Colorado. His flight, I guess, got a little bit delayed on the way back today, so he wasn't able to watch the game and didn't feel comfortable jumping on the podcast with us without seeing most of the game. So congratulations to him. I know it's been a crazy freaking year for him. He almost lost a freaking leg, and now he found the love of his life. So that's really awesome for him. And I mean, if you haven't, go to his Twitter page and like some freaking gorgeous engagement pictures. I'm jealous. Both of them look really good in it.
Jelly.
So, to be honest, I thought he was already married. Nope. Got engaged.
He did have a another girlfriend, which gave us our favorite cut ever when he was in Punta Cana.
True. You'll take pics from me?
And the infamous words, "Look, here's nachos."
What happens is, like, if you don't mind me asking you, no, that's fine. He got in a
car
very,
accident.
very serious car accident.
Yeah.
And he's still working through rehab. His goal was to ice skate by the end of this year, and looking like we're going to rub right against the deadline there. We'll see. Yeah, no, just a pretty serious car crash. But if you're watching, Ryan, we love you, buddy. Very happy for you.
Love you, man. Sorry, I'll congratulate him when I have a little more energy. It's rough for the Perfett household for several things going on this year too. So I'm just trying to catch up on old personal stuff. Now he can dunk with his bionic leg. Yeah, man.
True. I think I want to cut it kind of short today with any post podcast stuff because it's already late. It's 9:30. I got to write a whole bunch of stuff for tomorrow. And normally I have an extra 3 hours to do it.
I want to get a nap. I kind of wolfed down a burrito, but I'd like to maybe make a little something else. My apartment's a bit of a mess. You kind of see a little bit out of camera that I need to take care of and take care of this podcast, take care of some stuff I've had on my plate. Last night on the radio was kind of interesting because a guy wasn't able to do his show because he was in the parking lot sick. So, I've had a rough night and I've got my own stuff I got to do too. So, we're all over the place. It's holiday times and it's getting brutal in these streets. So
there you go. All right, chat. Then let's just call it there. We love you guys. Thank you. Sorry for some of the rants against you guys.
Hey man, we gotta have the tough love here. We gotta butt heads every now and then. That's what it is.
But you know what? We reached our 10 out of 10 gifted subs, so the stash is staying for at least one more week. Unless you guys go crazy with the gifted subs during our other podcasts and we reach the cumulative 100 for Shave the Stash. But for now, the mustache lives on. Next week it'll have to be 20 gifted subs, so you better up your game if you want to keep it. But until then, guys, we will see you Wednesday. We'll probably do a coach or GM profile. I'm not sure if we're going to do a preview of the Titans game because at this point, probably doesn't matter. But thank you for all of your support. Thank you for loving the Lions and keeping Pride Detroit afloat. We love you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.